Hello and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and I am surrounded by some of the best in the business. Of course, Crispy Bomb, Fuzzy Belvedere, you community, and we have three rocking topics to get into. Nothing major happened over the weekend other than Christopher Dring trying to tell the world about physical sales and Donkey Kong. And, well, that guy got put on the pain of mind list because people don't want to hear what he has to say about his physical sales in the UK because, well, it's all bullshit. But anyway, we got three stories to get into. We're going to be talking about Call of Duty Black Ops 7, folks. Guess what? It's expected to make a lot of money, and it's in Game Pass day and date. It is the sequel, the direct sequel to not only Black Ops 6, which came out last year, but it is the direct sequel of Black Ops 2, which is considered one of the more fan favorites of the Black Ops series. And I'm very excited for it. Not only are we getting the worldwide reveal at opening live night at Gamescom 2025, that is Jeff Keighley's show. It is expected that is what is going to open up the show. That is pretty big. And then, of course, in September, there is going to be a multiplayer, some sort of an event where they're going to show off what's going on with multiplayer. And supposedly, at least the rumor is, there's going to be a beta, which I cannot wait to get my hands on because, well, I love Call of Duty. And it's crazy. Like, I can't believe how much I flipped from Halo to Call of Duty. It's just crazy. We're also going to get into Contraband, ladies and gentlemen. Contraband, a game that a lot of people in the anti-Xbox community thought for sure was canceled. Well, guess what? It's not. They're still hiring. We're going to get into what that game actually is. We only have a piece of data that explains its setting. We'll break that down. But this, from what I'm hearing, could be the next big GAAS game for Xbox Games Studios. And over the weekend, Jez Corden of Windows Central, friend of the show, friend of the community, one half of the Xbox 2 podcast with Rand Althor each and every week, did a poll asking a specific question, which you can see in the chat, folks, because guess what? The old dog learned a new trick thanks to Web Dave. So I'm going to start doing polls. That's right. I'm going to poll it up, as Josh from Den of Nerds always says. I'm going to get you guys and gals interacted into the show a little bit more, do some different things, try some new tricks, if you will. But he asked the question, what PlayStation first-party single-player game do you want to see ported? And I have a theory on why he presented that question, but we'll get into that in a second. Crispy Bomb, good morning, good afternoon, kind sir. How are you feeling?
Well, I'm feeling good, recharged, touch some grass, as the kids like to say. It did the thing. I will give the stands credit. Like once I said, leaving the F alone, they actually did. So, not an end all be all. I think some of them have a little gamer in their heart, but we'll see. Great to be here, and shout out to the chat, and let's do it.
Indeed. And the best bald head in the business, Fuzzy Belvedere. What's going on, brother? How you feeling? Welcome back.
Oh, I'm feeling great. Glad to be here with you guys. Yeah, we're going to get into some nice topics today with the whole Jez Corden question. And yeah, Call of Duty, once again, going to be in Game Pass. I guess Game Pass will cannibalize sales again, which, I don't think Microsoft's too worried considering how many people buy it, but microtransactions and stuff. So yeah, we'll get into that stuff.
Well, you know what? Let's get into Contraband. Again, certainly not the biggest topic of the show. And we have, I got to say, folks, look, this is a game we don't know much about. Outside, and I'm going to read verbatim from its explanation. This is coming from Xbox.com. So what Contraband is a co-op smuggler's paradise set in a fictional world of the 1970s, which means that probably the cars are going to be old school muscle cars, like your Novas and things like your big block Novas from back in the days. I actually had one of them. It was my first car. I destroyed it. I was just such a knucklehead. My God, it was too much power for me when I was a kid, but I love that car. And it takes place in the 70s in Bayan. Now look, again, there's not a lot going. The one thing though, Crispy Bomb, that we know for an absolute fact is that they're still hiring for this game. And, look, I know that there were a lot of people in the community that felt a type of way about some of the layoffs. Of course, the layoffs were all terrible. The cancellation of games, the closure of a studio. It always leaves a bad taste in the mouth. And when you don't hear from a game for a while, like some of the games that were canceled, like, for instance, Perfect Dark. Yeah, we didn't see it this year. We saw it last year. It looked good. That got canceled. That game looked great. And we're never going to get it. The one from Rare, Everwild, look, I'm going to be honest with you folks. I'm not all broken up about that. I know that sounds maybe even kind of like petty. If I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was trying to be Pokemon. I don't know if it was trying to be Pal World. I don't know what it was trying to be. Zelda Breath of the Wild. The problem is that Rare themselves had no idea what this game was going to be, which is a little weird to me that it was been in development for that long. And no one at the studio was like, yeah, what are we doing here? We're just drawing. I don't know, right? So that's pretty ridiculous. So that game gets canceled also. And then, of course, you start hearing Blade. Blade, we haven't heard from Blade. Oh, my God. Guess what, folks? Blade's a $100 million game plus $100 million plus. It ain't going anywhere. They're going to make that game. That we talked about on Friday. Contraband, again, we don't have a lot. And, has anyone actually seen the game? Well, I know a couple of people that have. That's about all I'm allowed to say. And I can tell you that the game is in development. And I have a strong suspicion that based on some of the stuff that I know, they could have a hit on their hands, which is why this game is not canceled. It is unique in its way. It's a 70s-based game set in a fictional world. And it is a heist game. Now... we know certain heist games that are at the other side of Blue Team that aren't really doing so well because no one's heard from that. And the studio head or the owner of the studio is no longer there. So I don't know. So obviously Fair Games, nowhere to be found, you heard of, whatever you want to call it. That game is probably canceled. Though I'm happy to say, based on some recent LinkedIn hirings, that they're still going strong with this game. And I really do think it's because it's of its uniqueness, if you will. Crispy Bomb, look, again, this is not the biggest story. There's not a lot of news, ladies and gentlemen, which is why this is one of the smaller stories to kind of open up as we wait for people to file in, kind of check out the poll, give us what your take, what you want to see there. We'll kind of give you a shout out if you want to answer the fourth choice, which is what do you want to do? And I saw some really good ones in there. But Crispy Bomb, again, not the biggest topic of the show for sure, but Contraband is a game from Avalanche Studios that is currently in development. And again, it's a driving game. And coming off of what happened to, of course, with Forza Motorsport, Xbox could use another a driving type of game. And this is, again, it sounds unique. We don't know much, but it's a heist game based around muscle cars. That sounds dope to me. Get your thoughts, man.
Yeah, I mean, we really don't know much. I will say I've seen, at least from the information we have, that people are like, well, I'll just go play Grand Theft Auto when it comes out, the new one, or just go play Grand Theft Auto 5. And I say, well, wouldn't they have canceled it if that was just the gameplay loop? Like, there's got to be something there that's a little different. Like, you got to realize that regardless of how GTA has did this broad spectrum, they only touched on certain aspects of, we'll just say the dealer aspect of the crimes that you commit. Because I feel like it's probably a gameplay loop where you are probably always the bad guy in some way, shape, or form, even though there's probably something there layered in. And I feel like they would probably go a route of like driving boats and stuff a lot more. Maybe having like almost like a new school, like what is it like? Like a feel of like these speed boats and getting like cornered. Like imagine like let's say like when we used to play Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, and you used to relish in having the cops chase you because it was just like this different gameplay loop that was a part of it. Imagine that with boats and like like maybe the anybody, DEA, something like that, like constantly up your what, and you're constantly navigating that, getting around them, getting around even the Coast Guard or something like that. Like maybe the Coast Guard would be like the a higher level. Like I feel like this is going to be at the least a lot more on the water. At least from what I'm reading about it and understanding. Am I right? I don't know. I'm giving you a perspective because it hasn't been canceled. It's been in development for a substantial amount of time. There's something there that I think you're only going to be able to see when they reveal it, or at minimum when you get your hands on the controller. I'm intrigued though, because like I do love some muscle cars. I mean, come on now. Like who doesn't love a good muscle car? Like, pulling donuts whenever you want, because most of them were like posi rear wheel drive back in the day. Like my god, like it sounds like fun. They gotta, let's not have it be driver, because driver one, I didn't even get past the beginning. I'm sorry, I didn't. So let's not go that far with the, it doesn't have to be realistic like that. Like let's have some fun with it. I would always say, like, at least, and I haven't played GTA in a long time, but the driving never felt great. I'm going to be honest with you. So maybe have some more mechanics involved with that. Maybe even like some better, systems, like maybe from Forza or something like that, Forza Horizon, that are implemented into that so that it makes it easier. Like even if it's some of these accessibility things, like that would be actually cool, because like some people just don't want to do that. Like maybe there's you could basically in Horizon be able to let the car kind of do its own thing, brake at its own points, stuff like that. If you really wanted to do that, I did try those things out in there. Didn't play it a lot, not like Fuzzy. So let me just take that step back. But I'm just saying I have used some of those implementations that maybe some people would use. Like maybe you could like have a little bit of AI doing the driving, so you're not getting pulled over or something like that. Like those are things that, like it would be new, but I don't know if, they wouldn't make it mandatory. It'd basically be, if you want to use it, it's here. And I think that's where we're going with gaming, because I see a lot of more companies doing these type of things. And also like, the 70s have been touched, but not like fully. Like, like if you watch some of these newer shows that have come out talking about all these things that happened in that era, I really think a game like this could possibly hit that itch, especially with like, like the Narcos and all these other things that have come out over the years. And they're all around that area. And it's like, there's some kind of zeitgeist there, because they continue to make these types of shows, tell these stories that are probably half truths, but in realism, you could believe them a little bit. And it's like, you could tell your own story in this world and be able to give something, a new perspective, even though some people would just be like, oh, it's just another GTA, just with a different skin. That's up to you to find out. But at the end of the day, it's still here, and they got something. And I do believe it's got to be more of the gameplay loop than just like the development and story. There's got to be something there that's addictive. And I really think that if they found that addiction in some way with like play testers or something like that, they're going to say, okay, we have something here. Let's continue. Let them cook, as we like to say, and we'll see what happens. But I'm definitely intrigued.
Yeah, you know what? Do you guys remember, and I bet you Fuzzy does because he's the driving guy, Smuggler's Run on the PlayStation 2? There was a couple of them, but that game was dope. Now, granted, parachutes with drugs were coming down, and you had to get to them to get the drugs to drop them off at somebody's house. So, I mean, I'm not going to tell you that as a police officer, I very much enjoyed that. But you know what? I did. Okay. Sorry. I admit it live on the air. I was a bad guy and I don't really usually play the bad guy, but you had no choice. That was the game, damn it. So, yes, I smuggled drugs for the cartel. Not in real life, by the way. And it was fun. So that's what comes to mind. But interestingly enough, Rum Punch Man in the chat says, could it be cops versus robbers PvP? That is a very interesting and smart take, dude. I did get some additional information, right? So check this out. I'm going to read verbatim from the report. And it says, while there was concern surrounding the game's fate during the lack of updates since its announcement in 2021 and the recent removal of its announced trailer from the Xbox YouTube channel, recent job listings from Avalanche Studios seeking a senior DevOps engineer specifically for the Contraband team suggest that the project will in fact move forward. Additionally, Avalanche's latest fiscal report indicates the development of Contraband continued through at least 2024. Members who joined the studio this year are reportedly working on the project, further supporting its active status claims. But this is where it gets interesting. This comes the way of pure Xbox. The extended development period could be due to its ambitious scope of the project, which is planned to be, at this point, Avalanche's, quote, most ambitious and spectacular game to date. Which means, and this is where it gets interesting, Fuzzy, because Crispy had a phenomenal bunch of ideas, and it is intriguing. But I think one of the things that set this up potentially for success rather than failure is because not only is this game, from what we understand, at least from what I personally understand, is it being unique from anything that Xbox has. It is a GAAS game that does have a loop. There is expected, and there's a report that suggests that there is going to be continued support afterwards, that they're going to keep adding to this game as you have to with the GAAS game. And even more interestingly enough, because Xbox has so many games in development, this is one of those types of titles that if the powers that be saw something and they're getting positive feedback from this loop that they have created through this new type of game, they're giving them extending the development time to let them cook, as the kids like to say, is brilliant. Again, not every game is going to be a winner, and every game has the potential to fail. And we did see what happened, that they did cancel a bunch of things, though this wasn't one of them. Get your thoughts, man.
Well, I'm hoping there's a bit of Spy Hunter aspect in it as well, considering it's like a heist game and you're trying to get away. I want to be able to have like oil slicks come out the back and stuff along those lines. Since it's Avalanche involved, the same ones that did Mad Max and work with Bethesda for I just had it. I forget what it's called. It's like not Fury. What the heck was the? I lost the name of the title, but it's a game that we got a part 2 of, where Avalanche did the car combat for them for one of the games not too long ago. But I'm hoping there's enough car combat. Maybe you reinforce the bumpers so you can basically push people out the way and stuff like that. Oil slicks out the back. Maybe, you have, automatic weapons on the car. I don't know if we need to go full on like, Twisted Metal or anything like that. But I think if they wind up having it where it is kind of like a PvP where, you're the police authorities or some sort of customs agents that are, trying to recover these goods that you're trying to smuggle or steal or whatever. I think that could be a long-standing game especially if you're able to build up your cars either on the law enforcement side or even on those that are doing the smuggle runs and things like that. So all of that stuff would be pretty cool. Maybe the reputation of your car allows it to, some of the perks that you unlock will allow you to hide in traffic better, or be able to like pull off to the side of the road. Like if you're, going against like the AI bots or something like that, hide under a bridge or something along those lines. But I'm curious to see how this game pans out when we first get a gameplay reveal. The original CGI trailer was intriguing, but I really want to see what types of cars we have. Like if we are going to have like licensed, Chevy Novas or old Camaros and Mustangs or Chevelles or something along those lines, yeah, I'm all in. But even if they're not a licensed brand, as far as like the cars and stuff, and we are able to build them in our own unique way, whether we, lean more into horsepower or we lean more into armor or we lean more into gadgets like I wouldn't say ejecto seats like Fast and Furious, but at least like the oil slicks or maybe flames or spikes, coming out of the hub of the wheel or something like that. That would definitely be interesting. Something that we're not seeing in Forza, and you can't really replicate in Forza Horizon, even with the mods and things that you can do with the creative labs and stuff within Forza. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this game. I'm glad that we didn't get a cancellation notice on it. Me being the driving fan and racing fan, yeah, I can't wait till they do a full unveil of this. But like I said, I'm hoping we get that Spy Hunter vibe. Maybe we have a truck where we can, have it pick us up, get some upgrades, go back or do repairs and stuff like that. But yeah, it sounds interesting, especially when you got the Avalanche people, which if you've played Mad Max and you enjoyed the car combat there, I would say this is definitely one to look forward to. Plus they had other games that they've been involved
Rage
with.
2, brother. Rage 2,
Rage 2,
someone
that's what
said
it
it in the
was.
chat. It's
Yeah.
a very underrated game. That game was freaking phenomenal.
Yeah, like the biggest thing that I wouldn't say was a complaint about Mad Max, but I wish there was a way to respawn some of the convoys and things like that.
Yes.
Because like in the early days when your car is like underpowered and you have a little bit of armor, it's a lot tougher. But yeah, I'd want to like obliterate some of those convoys when I had it fully maxed out and stuff like that. But yeah, if they can replicate some of that kind of combat, yeah, I'm all in, and I can't wait until they do the full unveil, which hopefully, maybe the Dev Direct early next year has that as one of the blocks that they show. We figure maybe Clockwork Revolution, hopefully, Contraband, Fable possibly as well, and State of Decay 3. I'll be set for next year with just those titles alone. I know they'll have a lot more towards the later half of the year, but yeah, start off the Dev Direct with those, and that would be an awesome start to 26.
It certainly would. And again, what I really like, and I think most Xbox gamers will admit this, is that with the cancellations and the closure of a studio, we did learn that there are 40 projects that are in active development at Xbox Game Studios, gentlemen and chat. That's a lot of work. 40 games. Now, granted, there are going to be some games that are smaller scale and scope, sure. But there are some, big ones in there as well. And you mentioned a couple of them. Obviously, Forza Horizon 6 is next year. State of Decay 3, possibly next year. I'm leaning towards next year. You still have Clockwork out there that they're working on. Again, that's whether that is this year, next year, or the year after. There's a lot going on at Xbox Game Studios. I'm glad to know that this game is still in active development. And again, there's not a lot of news or information about it. So we don't know what the game is actually going to be outside of what we read in the description. It takes place in the 70s. Cops versus robbers sounds. I mean, are there any games like that right now? No, they're not. I mean, granted, there's Grand Theft Auto Online, but this is it appears that this is going to be based on driving. So I guess we'll see. We will definitely see, folks, and I'm very excited to see what they do next. But gentlemen, I want to go and move over to our next topic, and I'm going to let the poll you see in the chat, folks, kind of just go, because that's going to be our last topic of the show regarding what Sony could do next. And again, there's going to be some naysayers potentially in the chat that don't think that they're going to do anything anything single player. And I suppose time will tell. Again, I'm going to save my thoughts and theories for why Jez Corden put this out there. I've been following Jez. We've talked personally. We've met a couple of times in IRL. Gentleman of a man. Very smart. The one thing I will say before we get into Black Ops, because I'm very excited for that, folks. As you know, I've somehow, at the age of 54, are whooping these kids' ass, cowboy style, on Call of Duty, and I'm proud of myself. Trust me, I'm patting my own ass, not live on the camera like I did on Friday, by the way. I'm doing it in my mind, and I'm having a blast. I'm very excited for Black Ops 7, but Jez Corden, if you follow him and you enjoy his writings, because he's a good journalist, he never does anything for no reason. I'm going to break that down in a second. Again, it's probably a big nothing burger, but I'm willing to throw myself on the rack here and get stretched out. It's fine. Pause. But gentlemen, let's get into chat. Let's get into Black Ops 7. Look, what do we know about Black Ops 7, ladies and gentlemen? We actually know quite a bit, to be honest with you. Interestingly enough, I know there are going to be some people like, Call of Duty, ever since that Microsoft took over, they're going downhill. Now, granted, look, I'm going to be honest with you. It's a video game, folks. I don't get in my feels over running shoulder to shoulder with Beavis and Butthead on one side and a bunch of other silly characters on the other. I know there's a lot of people that get angry. There are Call of Duty purists that are just like literally angry at that, like rage possessed angry that they just added. What was that dad show with the stupid alien? Something Dad, a Great American Dad or whatever it is. It's
American Dad.
Yeah.
American Dad.
Yeah.
There you go. He's in the game. So is the alien. Now people are running around with Beavis and Butthead. There was a whole board dedicated to smoking weed. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I don't smoke weed. I never have, and that's fine if you do. So it was uninteresting to me. But I did spend the money to get what's his name? Because that's
Seth
stupid
Rogen.
laugh. Seth Rogen does a stupid laugh. I love it. Who doesn't love Seth Rogen, for Christ's sake? And he's running around in Call of Duty with a freaking joint sticking out of his mouth. Come on, that's funny. Now, there are some people that get really angry at that. And if you are one of those people, I don't blame you. You want your military shooter to be like Battlefield. And Battlefield, as we've seen, is that's also something that we're going to probably talk about at some point this week. That's something big is happening with Battlefield. And a lot of purists are going to be kind of going towards Battlefield. Hopefully, Vince Zampella and team have brought that studio and that franchise back. We'll talk about that probably towards the end of the week, because there's a lot to get into Battlefield. But the one thing that you have heard, or at least I have heard in the socials, is that ever since Xbox got their claws into Call of Duty, it's not the same. It's not making as much money. There are not a lot of people playing it. Folks, look, I told you this before. I don't give a shit how much money Microsoft makes. I could care less. All I care about is what they're putting in a Xbox Game Pass, if they're going to raise the prices, and they have not done that yet. And what am I getting for the money that I'm spending? Well, I know that I got Call of Duty Black Ops 6. I spent $27 to get the upgrade to the $100 edition, and I'm going to be doing the same thing again for Black Ops 7. Well, interestingly enough, Black Ops 6 made $1 billion. That's right, with a B, in 10 days of its release. And it is being reported. I'm reading the report right here. It comes the way of gamesindustry.biz. It is the highest grossing Call of Duty of all effing time. Now I'm going to pause for a second. Let that sink in, ladies and gentlemen. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 that released on Xbox, PlayStation 5, and Steam is the highest grossing Call of Duty title ever. That is honestly saying something. So, Crispy Bomb, I know you're not a COD guy, and you know what's crazy? Neither was I. Like I was like, yeah, let me play. You know who used to push me? Or boom, you got to get into it. Shout out to John Wolf, Mr. Spawn himself. That's one of his main skins that he's always playing with, right? He's like, boom, you gotta play it. You're gonna love it. They got Spawn and all. Like, nah, I don't know. I played that beta and I was like, wait a second. This is pretty damn good. I haven't played Call of Duty since the Xbox 360 days. What is happening? And well, team leader 3135. I don't care about sales, brother, but it's context. That's why they went with Black Ops 7. Brother, just cool your jets there, fella. Let me just say that. Unless you want to get banned, don't be a D. I'm sorry to shout you out like that, but you know what? When you want to be a D, I'm going to put you on blast. But getting back to the story, the whole point of the numbers, Crispy Bomb, is why they went with Black Ops 7 and not something else. And obviously, I'm a big fan of the Black Ops series for single player. And my favorite in this entire series has been 2. Black Ops 2 is freaking phenomenal. And this game takes place right after 2. Well, it involves what happens in 2 and happens specifically right after 6. So you are getting you're getting a sequel that's going to go into big detail for Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 6. That is actually dope, at least in my opinion. Now, I'm going to be honest. Normally, how I've always played these games is go through the single player on normal and then try and beat it on the hardest level, and you die a gazillion times. That's not actually what happened with me in Black Ops 6. I started and played about maybe 10, 12 hours of the single player and just never went back. I honestly can't believe it. Like, I was all in on multiplayer, and I still am. And I think I am the highest prestige level you can get, and I think I just hit 90. I mean, that's. I mean, I haven't even hit 100 yet. Like maximum level prestige. I've seen people with numbers like 370 and 290, and I'm like, oh my god, that must be all that they play. But Crispy Bomb. Opening Night Live is happening at the end of August. August 20th, I think it actually starts. That is Gamescom. Gamescom is one of the most attended shows each and every year. I know Kay Asante was there last year, and he said that Xbox had basically anywhere you look, there was an Xbox logo of some sorts. And he's going back this year. And we do know that not only is Xbox going to be there in a super big way, they're doing the 10th anniversary of FanFest, which is a big deal. And this game, Black Ops 7, is in fact going to be opening the show. Like the show opens up, and it's the biggest show, at least gaming show of the year. It's attended by hundreds of thousands of people. And the game that they're opening this with is, they gave Jeff a big one, was Black Ops 7. Let's get your thoughts on what we know so far. The fact that it is a direct sequel to 2 and 6. And this could be, I mean, even could it be bigger than 6 was? Get your thoughts, man.
Well, first of all, that person in the chat, you have to understand that all the stands talk about sales, especially console sales.
There you go. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So we're allowed to talk about sales. That does not mean that we give a shit if Microsoft's making money or not. I don't have stock in Microsoft. The Microsoft stock, I would have to like fold out some crypto that I'm making some superb money on right now to get any of that stock. I'm not doing it because I always see a downfall with huge companies. One of them being Sony, by the way, because I was very interested in getting their stock until all the fumbles that I've seen happen over the past year and a half. So let's clear that up because we're not being hypocrites. We're just telling you that, if Microsoft don't make money, we really don't care. We want the games. And this is one of the games that I didn't even realize was the game that it was. So when they revealed it, I was just like, is this a new IP? What is this? That being said, you have run down the exact point that I wanted to make. Not only is it the highest grossing, but it was in Game Pass. You mother truckers. My God, think about that for a second. Highest grossing Call of Duty, and it was in Game Pass. You people with your it don't sell. I bought Helldivers. I'm already telling you, it's got over 1 million people that have bought it. And when it comes out, it's probably going to be more than that. Because you know what? The gameplay loop is interesting. And it's got us intrigued as Xbox gamers. Like, hey, we might like that. So you look at what they've done with 6, and you say, oh, I don't want to play against random characters. What have you been doing in Fortnite if you played it? Okay? You've been playing random characters inside a world. Okay? Spider-Man, God, Kratos, Master Chief, whatever, dude. Like, come on, man. This is a new age, okay? I understand this might make a place for a Battlefield to come back, okay? But that's not what they're trying to be. They're trying to be fun and engaging. And clearly they're doing that. And yeah, there's haters out there. I want everything military. We've had full-on military shooters that have been military in the multiplayer and not giving you anything but military for years, okay? I mean, we did this with Gears 5. I actually enjoyed having, the Terminator in there and stuff like that. It was an interesting part of the game, okay? Like, brought Halo characters in there, which melded with the world, but still, they're not a part of the lore or anything else. So let's be honest there. Also, it's another Black Ops. So anybody that's saying that Black Ops 6 wasn't successful, why in the hell would they go back to it? And why the hell would they talk about bringing the 2 games that are beloved? Because 6 clearly is beloved. I'm sorry. But also Black Ops 2, bringing that story together. Okay? Now we're going to see what we see, and you can judge that as your Call of Duty eyes can see. But expect the same type of treatment. Newer characters, different genres, all these other things. This is going to happen within the multiplayer. It seems like they're going to ground the story the way the story is, and the multiplayer is going to be the multiplayer. And I'm okay with that. I've always been okay with that. Okay? So we look at the aspect of what they're doing. First of all, for Gamescom, this makes total sense. Because believe it or not, Europe actually loves Call of Duty. Just telling you. So let's leave that there and understand that it's releasing on PlayStation as well. Like, we already know this, okay? So let's not act like this is just an exclusive. It's going to be on Game Pass because they already see that they've made money and they can continue. And also, every game has microtransactions, and hello world, they're going to make money off that end too. So even if you bought it in Game Pass, it might entice you to buy the new skin or whatever you want to buy. That being said, like I've always said, it's not my jam. I would love a more third person mode. Like, I want more of that. Like, you have such a large player base. Can you give something for somebody like me, that little aspect? We will see though, because all of a sudden we see all these games that weren't there. All of a sudden, Outer Worlds 2 has a third person mode. Interesting. It's one of those things, like, give these people these options. You have a lot of, a lot of assets involved in the next Call of Duty game in general. Why not use some of them to allow some of us players that may not want to play first person have at least some kind of option in there some way? And I really hope I see something like that, because they continue to announce those type of things much closer to the date. So I'm really hoping there's something there, even if it's just, a mode inside the multiplayer. I might give it a shot. Okay. That's a me preference. I'm not saying that everybody else has to agree, but that mode can be for me. I mean, I've played games with 10, 15, 20 modes, okay, and always gravitated to 5 or 6 of them, and continue to find a similar player base that enjoys those modes. So I hope for some more diversity in that aspect. Other than that, like I told you, I thought this wasn't even the game it was when it was announced. So I don't even know what to expect. And that's intriguing in itself, is it not?
Indeed. Again, I've said this before. I thought, just based on what we were seeing, because I, like you, I was ass in seat. I was watching it as it was happening with the community. And I'm like, oh my God, the Splinter Cell thing is real. They bought Splinter Cell. And then that didn't happen. I'm like, okay, fine. But then I thought, Obsidian. Oh my God. I was a basket of emotions. I was like, could this be a new Alpha Protocol? Holy shit. And then it was Black Ops. And I'm like, okay, you got me. You got me. You fooled me good, because I had no idea what this game was. And, we were talking, Crispy and I, Fuzzy Belvedere in chat. And please correct me if I am incorrect in saying so. I don't remember a year-to-year series that had one after another outside of Modern Warfare 2 and 3, right? Like, has there ever been a direct sequel the following year? Because you got to remember, 6 comes out. They didn't make 7. Someone said it in the chat. They didn't make 7 because 6 did well. No. It's these games have to be made years in advance. As a matter of fact, Treyarch, who is become like the guy, right? That they have become the studio. Where back in the days it used to be Infinity Ward, and Infinity Ward had its problems, whatever. But Treyarch still rules the roost. They were probably dual developing these games. They knew they wanted to go to 7 afterwards, and I don't remember anything in the series ever going direct sequel other than Modern Warfare 2 and 3. So this is again, it's going to be a big game. Just based on some of the numbers from the first one, that I think the biggest, most jarring number was the fact that Game Pass did not hurt this, and as expected, because PlayStation has such a large base. I think it was 67 or 68% of sales were on PlayStation 5 and 4. That's, if you consider there's 100, I think that the number floating around for PlayStation 4 and Pro, 117, 118. Again, if you want to be a little generous and say we don't know, say 120. That's 120 million consoles, right? Now, does that mean that everyone there is going to buy it? No. But when you equate the numbers and you say 77 million shipped PS5s and Pros, that's damn near 200 million consoles. Even at 10%, that's a lot of people playing Call of Duty, and that's where you're probably going to get most of your sales. But I'm very excited for this. I have become like a full-on Call of Duty player. Like, and someone actually said it. They were Prestige 10. Like, I'm Prestige 10, and I'm up. I want to say maybe a couple of hours away from hitting level 100. Like, I haven't Prestige in a Call of Duty for me personally since like the Xbox 360 days. It's been a minute. and I absolutely love it. Even with the stupid skins and some of the skins that they make that are more military, the ones I like I was running around as the vampire chick for weeks. She's awesome. And there's been so many of that I bought. But let's get your thoughts on this, because Black Ops 7, again, it's going to probably be the biggest seller of the year. That's not going to be a surprise. 6 was. But I think there is some serious substance to this particular one, following up of what happened on 6. And the fact that it's opening Gamescom, I think that's pretty big. Let's get your thoughts, Fuzzy.
Well, it's exciting that it's opening up Gamescom. Gamescom isn't typically where you see Call of Duty unveils or anything along those lines. So this being a new, theater for them to display it, maybe there's a bigger push to see about Game Pass subscriptions in in that region. That could definitely help things as far as their overall growth for Game Pass, but just the look of the game, yeah, much like you guys, I didn't think it was a Call of Duty when they were showing it. It was like, yeah, a toss up between whether it was like something like Splinter Cell or some other new title, maybe from that new Activision studio. Elsewhere, I think is what they call that studio.
Yeah.
So it's like, what game is this? And it winds up being Call of Duty Black Ops 7. So it's like, yeah, that was definitely a bit of a different thing than what we were expecting as far as from the showcase and stuff. So having the new unveil, that's huge. I don't think there's ever really been a back-to-back other than Modern Warfare 2 and 3 most recently. But yeah, I think they're going to try some new things because they want to keep that game in the top 5. No matter how many haters trying to say, oh, it's worse now that Xbox and Microsoft taking it over, it still sells. Even before Microsoft was even considered to own Activision, back when they did, what was that, Infinity Wars or something like that, where basically it was the most downvoted video, and they still sold 11 million copies opening day. Like, most games would just they would kill to have 11 million in opening day, or even for the entire year. That was opening day for the most hated game from Call of Duty. So yeah, I'm curious to see what this one does. Just overall, I guess the conversation once again will come up about the, how it cannibalizes sales, which, like many people understand in the chat, yeah, that's part of it. They're going to have people subscribe in Game Pass, but that gives them that reoccurring revenue, which, if you do the math, you're getting possibly more reoccurring revenue out of the customer than what they would pay to own the game outright. And it's typically that game that, the person that only buys 1 or 2 games a year, that's what they're buying. So you're not really giving up the 70 if you can convince that person to subscribe for the entire year. You're actually making like an extra 70 or actually, like, was it like 280? So yeah, you're going to be in the black by the end of it, getting them to subscribe and, maybe spend some money on the microtransactions, which that seems to be the next biggest thing that they tend to focus on. Like, with all the skins out there, especially if you're getting in Game Pass, you don't feel like you spent the 70. I mean, sure, you got the monthly aspect, but you're looking at the entire catalog of games that you have access to. So if you throw them $20 for some skins, it doesn't feel as egregious as it would if you were spending the 70 or the 100 for the Vault Edition and then spending another 20 for some more skins. So it all pans out, but I'm curious to see what this one looks like. Gamescom in general, I'm looking forward to see what Xbox is going to do, because there's still some possible surprises that we see before this year is out. We know Ninja Gaiden's coming. We know Outer Worlds 2 is coming. I know I'm forgetting a couple other titles in between, but yeah, with those being the bigger ones coming towards the later part of the year, I think we'll get another surprise before this year is out at Gamescom. But yeah, Call of Duty normally shown, I guess it's normally in September when they show it. Getting it shown at Gamescom is it's going to be a different. It's going to probably hit differently just for the fact that you'll have an earlier hype cycle for the game, and if that means that they're now pushing it, on Xbox and maybe Xbox skins. I know Phil said he wouldn't do that type of stuff where it's like exclusive content stuff, but I don't know. They've been doing it for other people's free-to-play games, so I can't imagine them being like, well, we probably shouldn't put a Halo skin in there, or we probably shouldn't have put a Gears of War skin in there. No, they're going to probably wind up doing stuff like that.
Freaking beyond. You know what's funny? The sleuths of the interwebs. We actually talked about that. I think me and you, Fuzzies, talked about this after Black Ops came out, and they data mined where Marcus Phoenix, Master Chief, and even Fallout Power Armor was supposed to be in the game. I don't know. Listen, folks, anyone from Microsoft listening, and don't throw the virtual tomatoes, folks. I don't mind spending the money on the skins. Can you put a Master Chief in the freaking? I mean, you put Spawn in the last game. My God, what are we waiting for, folks? And again, it makes sense. Like as we get closer to Fallout the series, they'll probably put them in there because everyone's gonna, and that's when you're gonna get the shadow drop of Fallout 3 remake or remaster, whatever you want to call it. Listen, Xbox is cooking, folks. They are cooking in 2025. Shout out to Meet the Cheater. He says, boom, Modern Warfare 2 and 3 were not back-to-back. It was Black Ops in the middle of it, Black Ops 1. Okay. Yeah, you know what? You're absolutely correct. Thank you for the correction, brother. I know that the remakes were later. I don't even know if they were back-to-back, but thank you for the correction, brother. Super appreciate that. We actually, look, it's going to be a big deal. There is an event happening in September. It is going to be the annual, Call of Duty event. It's probably going to be multiplayer based. And then again, the rumor, at least the rumor that popped up over the weekend, is that it is expected. And this comes the way of Charlie Intel, who is like, they're like legit. People don't like Charlie Intel, say he's a pony. That's fine. I don't know the guy. Listen, him or they break a crazy amount of Call of Duty news. That's why I like Charlie Intel. Well, they said that supposedly after the reveal, the multiplayer reveal in September, which is, of course, right after Gamescom, there is a expected beta for multiplayer Black Ops 7. I freaking can't wait. I'm going to be all in on that. But let me get to the one super chat that we got here. Thanks to Do You K Now, the Broke Boy Insider drops a very generous $5 super chat. He goes on to say, Wu Chang Fallen Feathers this week. Two companies, GameSir, it's making the Xbox/PC controller, and 8-Bit Ditto or 8-Bit Do doing the PC. There's two different types of controllers. The one from, I call them 8-Bit Ditto, but it's 8-Bit Do. I have a lot of their controllers. They are phenomenally made. You can get them on Amazon right now for I think it's $65. It actually looks nice. It comes with the charger and everything. The other one, I like it, but their controllers are a little small. I'm waiting for the actual one from GameSir. GameSir looks dope. That's probably going to be like $80 because it comes with the charger stand. I think I'm all in on that, Will, as well. But yeah, folks. I mean, listen. Great way to open up the show. Hold on there, Cullen Prom. Says 8-inch what? Pause. There's a giant hashtag pause there. Curry Cosmos says Charlie Intel does seem to have a bias against Microsoft, but regardless, they have to get over it. I mean, listen, I've seen it, folks. I've read some of their stuff, and you can tell that they're PlayStation focused. It's fine. It's okay to be a PlayStation fan. Just don't be a troll, man. Or a grifter. Don't be a grifter, ladies and gentlemen. I can't really say that Charlie Intel's a grifter. I go to Charlie Intel for all my Call of Duty news. They don't even know who I am. It's fine. But, gentlemen, I'm going to go to the polls. And I have the poll in front of me, folks. The poll has 210 votes. Okay? And the question that I posed, and I'm going to leave the poll open at least until we get on out of here, is which of PlayStation's biggest single-player games do you want to be ported to the Xbox Series X and S? Now, I asked that specific question And I got to give credit where credit is due. Jez Corden of Windows Central, one half of the Xbox 2 podcast. Well, he put out a poll on July 19th, which was just 2 days ago. And, well, it asks pretty much the same thing. But, of course, I'm going to include it in the show notes if you want to. The voting is closed. It had, almost 11,500 votes. He's obviously a lot more popular than I am. So I would imagine I'm very ecstatic with the 210 people that voted on this poll. I didn't put it on the socials. It's only on YouTube, but it's fine. He simply asked, what back catalog PlayStation game from these, and he has a list, and I'll read it verbatim, would you like to see hit Xbox after Helldivers 2? He has The Last of Us, which came in second at 28.4%. Days Gone, which is what I picked, at 17.4%. Returnal is another really good one. That came in at 18.5%. And the winner, and this is a big one, and it would bring down my God. There would be, look, I'm going to tell you this right now. If this happened, and this is beyond Spider-Man, folks. So you know my love for Spider-Man and the MCU. So I'm all about that Spider-Man coming over. But if this happened, hug your PlayStation fan, hold them tight. Lock up the knives, lock the windows, keep them away from the edge of madness. It has Ghost of Tsushima at 35.8%. Oh my God. If Ghost of Tsushima and that, look, I don't have a lot of platinums. I think I have 4. One is Rocket League, which I love Rocket League. I haven't played in years, but I loved it on the PlayStation. Spider-Man 2018, loved it. Ghost of Tsushima is one of them. And the other one is I Am Mayo, where you had to tap the jar for a mayo. It was like a dollar game. I platinum that. Okay, stupid, I know. But I think that's the only platinums I have. But Ghost of Tsushima, that's a big one. So I'm going to go to the polls, and I'm going to read verbatim. And again, you heard what I said for the question. 21% for Uncharted, 19% for God of War, 22% for The Last of Us. And I had the fourth one as being something else. 38%, ladies and gentlemen. 30% of you fine folks that are in the chat said something else. Again, I don't have, if you start throwing what your something else is in the chat as we're going, I'll write some stuff down and we'll make mention of it. Again, that's one of those things that there were a lot of really good picks. Spider-Man being top of the list, a lot of people like me. I think Spider-Man is going to come over based on what's going on with Marvel, what's going on with Sony. Sony's in a bit of a pickle, especially when it comes to the whole Spider-Man thing. I mean, folks, they made Madam Web, they made Craving the Animal Hunter, the activist, I should say. They made a couple of really, really bad stinkers. Venom 1 did good for them. Venom 2 made less money. Venom 3 made even less money. I think a real easy one. Thanos puts it in here. He'd love to see the Jack and Daxter trilogy. I mean, it's a platformer. Why not? There's a look. Let me just start off with saying this is a fun topic. This is not meant to be serious. They're going to hold their cards super close to the vest. We don't know what's next for PlayStation. We don't know if Marvel's going to force them to put Spider-Man on there the same way MLB did with, MLB The Show. This isn't port begging, folks. Somebody in this chat is going to be, those bots are port begging. I have a PS5, and every one of those games that are on the list, not only do I have the collector's edition, I got the steel box sitting right here. So I played all the games. I didn't platinum all of them, but I beat all of them. So I don't really need them. But would I rebuy Spider-Man 2018 or potentially Days Gone on an Xbox? You bet your ass I would. I wouldn't even think twice. I wouldn't think the same way when Helldivers 2 came out. I was reveling in my vindication that, of course, all the people that said those horrible things about me were nowhere to be found. They were in a witness protection, and that's fine. But I bought the game immediately. A lot of people did as well. That game is going to sell really well. And I'm going to say this right now live on the air. Let the gaming gods help you. You know who I'm talking about. If that game sells more on Xbox than on PlayStation 5, I'm going to have a parade down the freaking main street announcing that. You better hope to the gaming gods that doesn't happen, PlayStation Nation. I'm telling you right now. Because if it does, I'm naming names. I'm going to tell you that right now. Because as we know, 12 plus million sold on PC. From what we understand, and the best numbers I could find are 2.2 million copies of Helldivers, which, by the way, sold more than Spider-Man 2. I'm telling you, I have a suspicion that Xbox Nation is going to come out big. It's a multiplayer game. If that sells more on Xbox than on PlayStation, everybody's going to hear it from me. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to walk the walk on that one. And you know what?
Yeah,
Rick L says it could be close. It could very well be. But Crispy Bomb, let's talk about PlayStation's next move. PlayStation is a corporation that needs money, right? They are not even close or on the same level when it comes to monies when you talk about Microsoft and you talk about PlayStation, right? But they're still a corporation at their heart. All of the old guard has been removed in one way or another, whether they have retired or they have been fired. The old guard, which in the old guard mentality is, you know, we make it for PlayStation, it stays on PlayStation, and we sell consoles because of it. Well, they did sell a lot of consoles. They've sold almost 80 million PS5s. They've sold almost 120 million PS4s and PS4 Pros. They know how to sell consoles. They know how to move hardware. There's no doubt about it. No one's ever doubted that. But there's a reason why the company itself allowed Jim Ryan to pump the brakes on all first-party single-player stuff and move over to GAAS games, which failed for them. And now they're in an adjustment mode where there are a couple of GAAS games, one of which was a huge success, Helldivers 2. That's 1 out of 12, right? We don't know what's going to happen with Bungie and their game. We don't know what's going to happen with Fair Games, which I think is going to be closed. And I don't want to see it happen, but it makes sense. Jade Raymond, gone. The money people, like Hiroki Totoki, are now in charge. They're now making the decisions. And the decision to put Helldivers 2 was a money-based one. So now the question that we have to ask is, what's next? Now, this leads me to my next statement. I've been a fan and reading Jez Corden's articles for years. I've had private conversations with him. I've been on the Xbox 2 podcast. No, not that one. Was that an Xbox 2 podcast? I was on something with both of them. Both of those gentlemen who haven't been on in a couple of years, you know, with schedules is just busy. I've worked with them on my show, Jez Corden and Randall Thor, numerous times. The one thing I will say about Jez Corden is that he doesn't write or community engage for no reason. Now, there is one caveat. When he's drunk, he does do some silly things. And he's known to do that on social media. Though I don't think this is one of them. Because when he's drunk, he usually writes like one-line sentences and a lot of dots. It means he's slurring. This was well written because he asks a bunch of questions. I'm not saying that we should look at this as a definitive, holy shit, these games are coming over. Jez Corden said so. That's not, in fact, the case at all. But I just never see him doing things, or at least community engagement or engaging with the community for no reason. I just don't see him. He's just not that type of journalist. He doesn't get people excited for no reason. That's not the way he works. So I don't want to sound like I'm reading into it, but when Jez Corden asked this question, it must be a question that the journalistic community might be asking each other in their circles that we're currently not in. Fuzzy Belvedere and Crispy Bomb. But Crispy, the question is, what's Sony's next move? Because I really think that it can be something like a Returnal. Returnal, a lot of people love that game, but it did not match the sales. They want to sell a game. Now, Nixus, who we've heard from a couple of people in the community, swear up and down that they're not working on anything Xbox. This is what we heard. I don't believe that. I don't believe that because Sony wants to make money. And right now, Spider-Man 2018 is a game that's 7 years old. It's sitting somewhere on a digital shelf, doing absolutely nothing, not making any money. Could they sell 2, 3, 5, 10 million copies of that on Xbox? You bet your ass they could. Days Gone is another one as well. God of War, I don't know so much about that one. The Last of Us, though. The Last of Us 1 remake. Why do I think that's a candidate? Well, because they have a TV series, folks. And they want to make money. And these games have been ported already, Crispy. Let's get your thoughts on Jez Corden's poll. And do you think there's anything to it?
All right. Well, there is. I will say I do believe, and don't get me wrong, I believe I'm still an admin on Randall Thor's channel. I have watched them for years. They actually had a great podcast with Colin, and Colin was pretty logical. He can get fiery, but he definitely didn't do that on there. He's basically warning you without warning you that something's coming. The logical one would be Days Gone. And that's because they continue to do stuff with it. And it's already been ported to PC. And it's not that hard to port it to Xbox. It's really not. Like, people are like, oh, it's all. No. Like, the Xbox plays a lot of PC games already. Like, my girl's just waiting for Neon Abyss 2 to come to Xbox, and it's in like a preview on Steam or something like that. It's going to happen. I already told her it's going to happen because it's a small dev team and they want all the audience they can get, and that's her. Okay. So I look at that and I say, yeah, Returnal would be logical as well. And, Fuzzy brought up a great point because I didn't play the game. He said, oh, it has co-op elements that I couldn't get involved with. Interesting. Didn't even know that. But at the same time, Spider-Man is logical as well. And we're talking making money for a company that hates us. That's what I'm saying for Xbox. Think about that. Okay? Allowing them to do what they allowed us to do. And that's where I say, like, August is going to be a great month. It is going to turn some people into just general gamers.
Yeah. Great
and
point.
You're going to play 2 games that we never thought would happen on 2 separate consoles, but be able to play with each other if you want to. And it's going to change the entire narrative. And Sony sees it because they see the success of Fortnite. They see the success of Call of Duty. They see the success of Madden. And they say, we still make money on the back end and we do what we want, but we need to be a little more logical. And some of these single player games, especially Returnal, unfortunately sold very poorly, really poorly. I'm glad.
And there's a sequel coming out, by the way.
Soros, I think that's what it's called, I believe. But you have to You have to realize that these games are hitting budgets that are absurd for games. Like, I remember hearing about like some of these like games that have changed the industry, like Doom, costing like less than $1 million to develop. And now we're at the point where these first person shooters are in the billions upon billions of dollars to develop at times. So let's relax. Like, if it's approaching $1 billion as a game being made, that doesn't mean it's going to be successful. It's called a gameplay loop, and thus Sony still has that. That's why they continue to sell consoles. But at the same time, these games are not developed as GAAS games, which maybe Jim was right, maybe he's wrong, but it didn't sound like it was for the player base. It sounded like it was for something else, which may be PC at that time, but now it seems like Xbox might have a few cards in there because we continue to see them develop games in different genres, in different aspects, multiplayer, single player, all these other things. The diversity, especially of Game Pass, which helps the situation, not going to lie, has come to fruition to say, okay, could Sony take a bag like they did? Because they did get money from the MLB The Show. You know what I mean? Do they take a bag for one of these older games? Or do they release it just on the console? Just think about it. It's unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of people that, I mean, I wasn't one of them. I'm going to be honest. Okay. But there was a lot of people that hated what Xbox was doing. And I said, I don't hate it. I just want games. That's all I care about. I want Gears to live forever. What did I always say? I want Gears to live forever. If it's got to go on PlayStation, screw it. I don't care. I'll teach the PlayStation guys how to play Gears. Okay? But then you drop Helldivers on the same day, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess I got to learn something new. What a concept. Okay? Because, I've gotten involved in the community, and I'm not just talking on X. I'm talking on Facebook. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's gonna get close for the sales as PlayStation. It's going to get damn close. And that's going to be off release. And I don't even know if anybody's going to even say anything. And that's where I say, I don't think Gears is going to do bad either. And we're talking, the oldest of old in a way. It's the original. And some people haven't experienced it. That's okay. It's okay not to experience. The console wars are dead, people. They're dead. And I'm going to tell you right now, when one of these games, and I'm going to tell you, Jez is pretty good. When he says something like this, puts out a poll, one of those 4 games is coming. Okay? So just brace yourself. Maybe it's not Spider-Man now. Maybe not. Maybe they're holding it to their chest really hard. Maybe have another movie planned or something like that. Maybe they really, they have another sequel involved. But at the end of the day, it's done. It's over. Now it's just platform wars. What console's better for me? My Series X hasn't done me wrong yet. And I've had it for 5 years now? What are we talking about? It's kind of ridiculous. And that's where I say, gamers are going to be gamers. Give us a good gameplay loop. Give us something to fight for. Kind of how I feel about Helldivers, to be honest. And let's do it. Let's come together. Stop fucking. If we, excuse my language, but if we want to move past this, we're going to have to come together on certain games. It's not going to be every one. I understand that. You still don't see a South of Midnight or something else on PlayStation. I'm sure it didn't sell like superbly, but did it involve engagement on Game Pass? We don't know. We don't have the numbers, but think about it. You know what I mean? There's something there, and one company is like, oh, we are going to cancel everything that we talked about. And the other one is like, we canceled some things that just didn't make sense because it just wasn't working. They weren't where we needed them to be. And also, you know, AI. I mean, let's be honest, AI is going to absorb a lot of these jobs, which is, I hate it. I really do. But in realism, like, one of those four games is coming. And Jez didn't say that for no reason.
Listen, again, I agree with you 1,000%. I don't think, and you know what, Jez might be listening now and just laughing his balls off. Like, yeah, look at these guys having a whole podcast based on what I said. I thought it was interesting. I think that the days of Sony holding their exclusives to the one box are done. And to be quite honest with you, Fuzzy Belvedere, the fan base is to blame. I just looked up Returnal's numbers. Even after its PC release, it barely topped 2 million sales.
Mm-hmm.
Now, according to the article, it was profitable for the company. That's true. But when you consider that this game was on as many consoles as it was, and on PC too, you know, you gotta. It begs the question: do they keep that same ideology? Because Nixxes was purchased and they ported Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 was selling really well. You heard Chris Brown mention about 1 million players already. It's probably going to be even more than that. The game is excellent. When I tell you, Arrowhead did a phenomenal job on this game. And I would imagine that there's going to be potentially, again, this is me fanboy dreaming, that they're going to add some ODST skins, maybe a Master Chief skin, maybe a Spartan skin. Yes, sign me up. Take my money, please. No problem. But I'm also in the camp with Crispy that I don't believe anything Jez Corden does, especially when it comes to engaging with the community, is for nothing. And I can't say for certain that this is definitely some sort of a call to arms that, oh my God, these games are coming. But I think that you're going to see the money people at Sony, especially because Sony's a publicly traded company. Look at what Xbox is doing currently on PlayStation. They're selling gangbuster numbers. A couple of months in a row, we saw that of the top 10 selling games, 5 were Xbox. Somebody on the board is gonna be like, "How come we're not doing that? How come we're not making money over there?" What are your thoughts on this, man? I mean, because I know you said you might get a pinch messy, but you know this is what we're here for. Talk about it, brother.
Well, for the ones that Jez put up there, and I saw some people say this earlier on in the chat when the poll first went up. Returnal makes sense. It didn't do the greatest numbers, although it was profitable. But considering how many consoles are out there, yes, it's not a mainstream game, but 77 million consoles, you would hope that there would be, more of that player base involved in that game, especially something with co-op, which at that point they could kind of turn it into a live service. It would just take a few tweaks as far as the additional bosses or levels, or maybe have it where seasons affect the environments or the certain biomes where, hey, you have to deal with always taking acid damage, and the only way to counter that is to melt a boss with fire or something along those lines. Like, they could definitely work in a games as a service angle with that game and not have it take away from the core of the story of the game. But like I said, on social media, most of my friends lists on PlayStation, there are a good bit that are also on Xbox, but not many of those wanted Returnal. But as far as the PlayStation loyalists out there that are PlayStation only fans, and they had Returnal. It was like, oh, well, I also waited until it was on sale. Like I'm not, that was one of the games that and Ratchet and Clank, I wasn't paying the $70 for them. I can't remember if they were a full 70 at the time, but I was like, when they hit 40, then I'll pick them up. And that's when I picked both of those titles up. But I guess by that point, nobody or everybody had already beat the game or whatever. But they shortly after I bought that title, they added co-op, which I thought that was a cool feature, which, you know, is prominent in a lot of Xbox centric games. Not necessarily, I guess, on PlayStation, although they do play multiplayer on things like Fortnite or Call of Duty, Apex Legends, and things like that. But no one really wanted to bother doing the co-op, so it was like, that's the same crappy, you know, I guess player pool that I've had to deal with even from Destiny and stuff. So I the main reason why I bought the Division on Xbox was because of my experience during the beta in comparison to my experience with Destiny on PlayStation. And at the time, keep in mind, everybody was thinking that Destiny was like a PlayStation exclusive when Destiny 1 first came out to some extent. And finding people with, you know, headsets or microphones or anything, or doing any form of communication. I mean, me being former military, I used to expect some sort of communication in games. And I just got people that are running through all the enemies, not killing any of them just to get to the boss. And I guess I don't know, maybe because of my level, I was teamed up with the sweats or something, but I'm like, they're fighting the boss and they're like, oh, you got to be transported to where I'm like, that was so frustrating for me during that time frame. So having something like Returnal come to Xbox would be pretty cool. The fact that it's co-op, I think it would actually have longer legs on the Xbox platform. And kind of like what Boom was saying earlier, and even Crispy was saying, I'm pretty sure I said this before. I think in a couple of years, Helldivers 2 will be more known for being on Xbox than it will be on PlayStation. Well, maybe it'll be more known being on PC, but Xbox will be like the main console that people think of for that game, because whether it's because of collabs and skins and things like that, I think there will be a more continuous player base on that title on Xbox. Just my 2 cents in seeing, although Destiny, they did, you know, back that game for a while, although it doesn't feel like PlayStation even wants to associate that as being a first party title any longer. But yeah, I think Returnal would have been the bigger title out of that list that would probably do well. Although I can't, you know, deny that Days Gone, considering I feel like Bend Studios is like one canceled game away from being closed. Like,
yeah, dude,
we know they didn't get greenlit for Days Gone 2. We know that Games as a Service game was canceled, and I guess somebody checked the bios on a LinkedIn for some of the employees. It looks like they've canceled several other titles that, you know, weren't public knowledge kind of thing. So with that being said, I can't imagine Sony wanting to keep the lights on much longer unless they're going to keep them just as a support studio, which the people there hated that when they were doing that for, you know, for The Last of Us and other titles within the, you know, Sony first party. So having something like Days Gone get a little bit more funding towards that studio, although I know that's not necessarily how it works. You don't have to sell the game specifically from Ben to get more financing back to Ben, but it probably makes it easier for them getting projects approved or getting a little bit more resources for whatever their next project would be. But I think Days Gone would be a nice fit. You know, we've had the Dead Rising series on Xbox for umpteen years, so we're fans of killing zombies, whether it's in Call of Duty, Dead Rising, or other games, or even with State of Decay. It would have a nice, it would find a nice home on the Xbox platform, and I think people would support that. But for me, I don't know if I'd double dip, but I probably would if the price is right. I'm not paying the full 60 or 70 for it, but Ghost of Tsushima, which is a game I beat on my PS4, bought the Iki Island DLC on PS5. I think that one would do well as well. As a hack and slash, we don't have our own hack and slashes be outside of like Ninja Gaiden right now. And I think some of the key things that I liked about that game that were not just Assassin's Creed like, but actually before Valhalla came out, you had dismemberment, which I know I mentioned this and people probably think I'm a psycho killer or something, but that was one of the key things that drew me to playing through that game, which, yeah, I know that's a little morbid or whatever, but having it where you can chop an enemy's arm off, the other enemies that are getting ready to attack you see you do that, and then they like stumble over each other trying to get away from you. That type of mechanic in a game, having that something like that on Xbox would be pretty cool. I haven't really seen many games do that type of thing until like Valhalla started doing the dismemberment with the knocking heads clean off the shoulders, and same thing with Assassin's Creed Shadows and stuff like that. So that would be another cool one on Xbox. But like you guys mentioned earlier, like whenever Jez says these things, it's almost like when Phil says something or mentions something, it was true at that moment and something may have changed. Like I know people are like, oh, he lied about VR. I knew all along he was making a deal with Facebook. That was, well, maybe it wasn't public knowledge, but for investors between Facebook and Microsoft, we knew that there was something going on. And the only other thing that was like a key sign was when, Mixer closed down and they threw everybody over to Facebook. That should have told you that they had other, background or back office deals that were in the works. And it took forever before, I guess, Facebook was comfortable with Oculus and how it was going before they did what, we now see with the Meta Quest 3 or the 3S that has like the Xbox branding and everything like that, even though it's not full VR, but that is one of the first steps that they'll try before they have their developers invest the time and resources making VR games. So it's something that when you see Phil say something, it's true in that moment, but as in business, things change. With Jez, usually when he makes these odd or out of the blue polls, something that's from a credible source that he, vets, and then there's probably a secondary or third that are confirming or at least making mention at the same time. And it's like either they don't know each other or they don't really cross paths to get that same info and just, echo each other's info. He's probably got some insight, especially where Nixus was the ones that did Helldivers 2. Nixus is probably on their next project, which is either for PC and Xbox or Xbox in general. We'll probably see in the next 6 to 10 months type of thing. But yeah, I don't think he would just come up with that, poll out of the blue without hearing something credible or something substantial about what Nixus is working on now. But well, like I said, 6 to 10 months, if one of those games that he put on that list, or you could probably check off 2 or 3 of those in some sort of order that Nixus will be working on those. And, considering Helldivers seems like it's doing well, it's charting as far as purchase games on Xbox and things like that.
Yep.
I think you'll see whether it's Uncharted or one of those other ones, because the rumor has it that that's probably one.
Uncharted rumor has been floating around for a minute, dude. Like I saw, again, folks, you got to take this stuff with a super grain of salt.
Yeah.
What are the chances of Uncharted launching onto Xbox? Hell, I have no idea, man, honestly. but to be fair, there is a trilogy that was remade that could easily just be ported. Again, folks, Sony is in the business of making money. They're going to get 70% of old. You got to remember, I always say this in business, Fuzzy. You're making new money with old shit, right? They have old games. They're going to try and make new money with these old games. They're going to potentially put these games on a place where not people are starving for games. Hell, I don't have time to play the games I got now. As a matter of fact, shout out to Smokey in the chat. He said, did anyone talk about Descenders next shadow dropping on the Xbox Game Pass today? Holy shit, I had no idea. I can't wait to tell Tyler. He loves Descenders. He likes crashing, but he's 16. What do you expect? But yeah, Descenders next in Game Pass. Shout out to Smokey. I had absolutely no idea. But again, are these things going to happen? I don't know, but let me just hand the microphone back over to Fuzzy, and I'll get off my final point.
Yeah, I think when it comes to any of these potential PlayStation games, I think it is a strong chance that we'll see something here soon enough. And people will look back and say, well, Jez should have just come out and said it, or whatever the case may be. And he's not going to, dox his sources kind of thing. But yeah, I think be prepared. Kind of like we joked about earlier. If you have a friend that's a Sony loyalist, just check on them when these announcements start coming through. Much like they joked about us after the 4 games or whatever. Yeah, they're going to go through the same thing. And it's like we've told them many times before. A lot of times Xbox does things first. They catch all the arrows, and then Sony sees it's all clear, and then they do the same thing. I think about the only thing, and I don't know if we're going to even talk about, but I'll bring it up just briefly. The only thing I've seen more recently where Sony did something first and Xbox kind of followed the same suit was the no more movies on the platform, as far as being able to purchase those and things like that. Yeah. Although Sony went a little bit different, where they started to take away some of that stuff if you already purchased it, especially the WB stuff until the contract thing. But if Sony, being a company that's into movies, was having a hard time selling movies on their platform where they have a little bit larger player base, I would have to assume Microsoft is probably seeing that same cost versus, licensing, upkeep and seeing if it's worth it kind of thing. I mean, at least at this point in time, they're not taking away anything. And to my understanding, a lot of those movies are almost like a play anywhere anyway. So if you have like that Blu-ray app thing where it's like
called movies, movies everywhere, you can sign up for it. And if you buy a movie on Amazon, you could play it here. If you buy it on Xbox, you can play it there. So it's pretty widespread. Movies everywhere, actually.
Yeah. So I would say be prepared for Sony following in Xbox's footsteps as far as finding more customers. You can't monetize customers you've already monetized to the hilt. You got to find them elsewhere, and that's PC, that's other platforms, console, mobile, what have you. I don't think the red lines that everybody joked about when Phil said it, I don't think that's going to be something that's going to be upheld on other platforms, except for Nintendo. Nintendo, they walk to the beat of their own drum kind of thing. So they'll be the last holdout, and then they'll realize that they probably should have put some of their games on PC so people would stop doing the ROMs thing. But that's money they're leaving on the table. And I know Nintendo fans will be like, well, they don't have to do that. The companies don't have to make money, but they insist on making money. So at some point, be prepared for them to do it. So, but we'll see.
Again, folks, it's all speculation. None of this is confirmed outside of Helldivers 2. And look, if Helldivers 2 sells well on Xbox, and I really believe it's going to sell well, you're going to see something else move. And it's not going to be a multiplayer game, because they don't have many multiplayer games over on PlayStation side. They have a lot of single player games. For me, Ratchet and Clank is possibly, a candidate. I mean, look, we're going to get out of here, folks. But if you just look at Days Gone, like why am I insisting on Days Gone? Well, there are a couple of reasons, folks. The biggest issue for Ben Studios is they haven't released a game since 2019. We're in 2025, folks. I'm no mathematician, but goddamn it, that's 6 years. That means Sony has been keeping the lights on and paying the staff for them to work on a game, which, by the way, was a GAAS game that Sony just canceled. And what happened after that? They lost 30% of their staff. Right? 30% of people were laid off from Ben Studios. They're a support studio, supposedly. They don't like that. They had their hell-bent stance on Days Gone 2. And I have said this before, and I'll say it again. I really believe they were going to have their Uncharted 2 moment with Days Gone 2, because Days Gone was good, but it was flawed. I enjoyed it. I never beat it. The hordes were great. Atmosphere was great. The acting, the voice acting, the graphics were phenomenal. But I think if they would have had an opportunity to get out the second one, they would have had their Uncharted 2 moment. And that's never going to happen. So what do you do with that studio? Do you get them to help Nix's port this thing to Xbox? Maybe. But you definitely be getting people to do some work. Rather than, what would you rather do? Would you rather, PlayStation fans in the chat, what would you rather? Days Gone, a single-player, story-driven, narrative-focused zombie game launching on Xbox, or F it, let's just close Ben Studios. It's not worth it. I'd rather them release the game. And so should you. But we'll leave it there. Again, I'm going to break some of the conversations we had down into more digestible videos. They'll go up later today or early tomorrow. Let me catch up on Super Chats. We'll get everyone out of here. Nino Vistic, our generous friend all the way from Hawaii. Aloha to you, kind sir. He has gifted 1 Double Barrel Gaming membership. That is very kind of you. You've done that more times than I can count. We super appreciate the generosity. Hopefully you and your family are doing well, kind sir. Mac22 in the chat has been a channel member for 10 long months. Mac, thank you so much for the outstanding support. He says, Fuzzy, I lied. Killzone and Siphon Filter, I would pay full price for those. Yeah, so would I. I would buy Killzone. Why not? I mean, the game hasn't seen a release since 3.3. That was a PS4 release. It really wasn't that good. I'm gonna be honest with you. Probably my least favorite of the 3. 2 was okay. 1 I thought was excellent, but it wasn't the Halo killer that everyone said it was. But it's fine. Like Squad _CEO drops a Canadian $2.79. Well, that's very kind of you, brother. Thank you so much for the support. He says, will the Xbox handheld be stronger than PS5 Pro overall? Stronger in power? Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, the only one I can answer that is Fuzz. He's a tech head.
Okay.
I mean,
I tried to answer him in the chat. So just in case, all right. So from a graphics standpoint, it's not going to be more powerful than the PS5 Pro, at least unless it's as expensive or almost twice as expensive. So graphically, PS5 Pro will probably outdo it. Now, keep in mind it's a smaller screen, so 1080 is all you really need. So you don't have to worry about 4K 60. Just 1080 60 would be substantial. But from a CPU standpoint, here's where the rubber hits the road. A PS5 Pro is probably going to lose support from Sony as far as new games being put out for it in 5 to 7 years. Let's just say, so 7 years. That would be like a cross-gen into the next gen. That Xbox handheld, even the Xbox Ally right now, will probably still be able to play games for 2 to 3 CPU gen iterations. So you may not be able to play Cyberpunk Part 4 or whatever at 30 frames smoothly, but you'll be able to play other games in that genre or in that time frame when a Cyberpunk 4 would come out. So you'd be able to get more use out of it. It's why PCs can last longer, even though graphically they don't necessarily have the bells and whistles, but you'll be able to still play some of the games. It's just that you might be stuck with something like a Vampire Survivors or something simpler like a platformer, or you'll have to turn like some of the graphical stuff down. So you'll get more life out of the Xbox handheld, being that it's going to be part PC, part console kind of thing. So that's the way I would look at it.
Right. I mean, well, thank you so much for the technical breakdown. Super appreciate that. And again, I thought the same thing. PS5 Pro is a powerful console. We didn't cover it here, folks. Don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe. I don't care who's saying this. It's not. Grand Theft Auto 6 is not going to be 60 frames on the PS5 Pro, and there are reasons. You want an answer to that? Show up Wednesday evening, because that's going to be the thumbnail, and that's going to be one of the major topics. There are reasons that even a technical boob like me understand it ain't going to be no 60 frames. I don't care who's saying it. I'll just say it at that. But Michael Mooney drops a £5 super chat. Michael, thank you so much for being here, brother. Super appreciate your generosity. He says, my money would be Horizon coming to Xbox, seeing that Death Stranding used the same engine, which is the Decima engine. It's very interesting. I'm going to reveal something that I have never revealed so far. This is a bit of here's some tea. So you remember that game that came out last year that literally nobody bought, even on Nintendo, called Lego Horizon? Remember that game? Well, I wanted that game. I was going to buy it on Switch. I never did, which now I'm going to go look for because it's probably super cheap. But I can tell you for an absolute fact, without giving up my source, that the Xbox version is 1,000% done. It was made for the Xbox One, and it is literally sitting on a digital shelf right now. That's right. You heard it here. Again, not breaking news. So a couple people will know this. I'm, again, not giving up my source. Lego Horizon for the Xbox is done. It's literally waiting to be announced and sent to Xboxes website for them to put it up on the store. It's done. Why they haven't released it yet, I have absolutely no idea. We know Herman Holtz is absolutely in love with that game, and you're right. He thinks Horizon coming over makes sense. That would be a story, and I would buy Horizon, the first one. I'd buy it again. I played through it. That phenomenal game. I loved that iteration of Aloy. Did not like 2, man. She was kind of an a-hole. Don't like what they did with the character for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But that's going to do it for us here, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully, you enjoyed the podcast enough to hit the like button. If you're not already subscribed, folks, I don't know if it's just me or anybody on YouTube are struggling getting subs. I mean, we are struggling. And it's got to be the summer. I think I say this to Joseph all the time. And she's like, we went through this last year. It's people are away. And she's right. She's right. But listen, if you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing as we are on the hunt, not for 17K, 16-1. I'd be happy with at this point, and we're close. But Crispy Bomb, let's tell the brand, brother. Where can people reach out to you on social media to get the crispy truth? What else you got going on, my brother?
At Chris Bomb on X, Chris Bomb 20 Xbox Live. You could find me maybe tomorrow. I don't know. Depends.
We'll see.
BoomStick deals with me. I love him for it. Sometimes I have some good truth to speak. Sometimes it's taken the wrong way, and all of a sudden, Crispy was right. So always remember that.
You are a receipts keeper, sir.
Oh, yeah. And I keep all the receipts, and I'm just saying, stop worrying about the plastic box. Worry about the games, people. Trust me. When the games come out and they're just better on one console than the other, you might realize I'm missing out on something, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, good stuff as always. And if you want to join us tomorrow, let me know. You're in the DM, so all you have to do is show up. Shout out to Stone Patrol. Says, don't sell yourself short, Boom. You are still on the hunt for 17K. Yeah, of course. I mean, we're always chasing a number. Like whatever number is next, we're always going to be chasing it. Folks, like I said, I don't really. I used to focus a lot on the numbers. Like it really would bug me. Like, but now I'm here. We had almost 500 people watching live. We used to get 25 people to watch the show. So we're here. We arrived. It's just that we're growing slower than some of the other channels. And maybe because we don't really use console war rhetoric, maybe that's the case. I don't know. Listen, we're going to continue to do it this way. This is the grassroots mom and pop way. And we have fun. We're here to talk about games. And that's how we're going to do it. And if it takes us, 100 years to get to 50K, then so be it. But Fuzzy Belvedere, let's sell the brand of course, your YouTube channel. You can drop the link in there. But also, we do want to, continue to send people over to the Mrs. Your wife's YouTube channel, which of course is called Fright Night with Ferocious V, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Friday evenings. It's a horror-based show, and it's a lot of fun, folks. Last week, they watched. What did you watch last week, brother? Was it something like Hell Nights or something?
No. Wait. Let me.
Oh no!
I already forgot what one was. Why is it not showing? It was a
slasher one.
Yeah, like what was it? The Funhouse one was the week before that, and then just this past week. Oh man,
it's a pretty popular
Jeepers
one.
Creepers.
There you go, Jeepers Creepers. Yeah, it's not slash more like a.
Well, I just remember the face because I had to do the YouTube thumbnail art for it, where it's like the one main character where you see him at the end, and then the Jeepers Creepers is peeking through his eye sockets, kind of thing. So, yeah, it definitely a worth watching horror film from the early 2000s, but it kind of gives like an 80s kind of vibe to it. So.
It's creepy as F. The way that they did it, where they didn't show you the thing. Is what creeped out Mrs. Boom, and that she can watch the Exorcist at any day of the week, which I still have a problem with. So
no, but I just want to start off by saying always love doing this podcast with you and Crispy. it's fun talking about this industry. Love giving our opinions on things and interacting with everybody in the chat. I know some people prefer other platforms and such, but at the end of the day, like Crispy said, just play the games. I even recommend play more games, less social media, because Twitter, you don't get gamer score for it. So it is what it is. But in the grand scheme of things, just have fun out there. Be safe, everybody. I put the link for both my YouTube channel and my wife's YouTube channel in the chat. Check them out when you have a chance. If you're into horror movies, definitely subscribe to Fright Night with Ferocious Fee every Friday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like I said, we did Jeepers Creepers last week. We did Funhouse Massacre the week before. There's a lot of B-movie horror movies that we go over. We on occasion touch on some of the mainstream ones, like we did Megan, the first one, a couple of weeks ago and stuff like that. So you get to hear our funny takes on some of this stuff. But all in all, everybody just have fun out there, watch some horror movies, play some video games, be safe out there, and hope to see you guys. Well, I'll hope to see you guys this Friday for Breakfast with Boom, but stay tuned to Double Barrel Gaming all week. Don't miss it.
Appreciate that very much, gentlemen. Have a great day. And of course, chat, thank you so much for tuning in, hanging out with us for almost 2 hours. So appreciate that. Of course, a big thank you to all the super chats, channel member chats, and the gifted subs that continue to come in. Mrs. Boom and I are, of course, incredibly grateful for it. And I'm going to close the show with something that's incredibly important to me, folks. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad toys me with kids. And it would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.